Hello and welcome to yet another edition of the Democratic Newsroom. The last 3 days have been very tumultuous for our neighbors, but are there lessons to learn back home in India? Because it's not just Nepal, is it? Right before that, there was Bangladesh. Right before that, there was Sri Lanka, and now Nepal. Lessons to learn on the total neighborhood collapse where India is concerned. Nepal burning red flags for India. All of that being discussed over the course of the next 25 minutes. Joining me are our band of editors, Rajdeep Sardesai, Gaurav Sawant, Pranay Upadhyay, Akshita and Geeta. Rajdeep, let's begin with you because there's so much been spoken of what if something like this can happen in India. Are there lessons that we need to learn? All of that.
First of all, Preeti, I think this entire comparison is odious. You're comparing a nation of 2.97 crores, officially the last census figures, with a country of 140, 150 crores. You're comparing a nation with a fragile, nascent democracy with 9 governments in 10 years like Nepal with a relatively robust and resilient democracy like India. So, please let's not get carried away. I know it's a democratic newsroom. You want to do something provocative. Say, what are the lessons we can learn from Nepal?
Opposition, one second. Rajdeep, nobody's getting provocative here. The opposition is raising these questions.
Look, frankly, I'm not here as the opposition.
No,
I am here very simply to tell you objectively what I see as the reality. So reality number one, let's not overstretch any comparison. But having said that, I think the one worry is that we live in times of sharpening inequalities across, not just in Nepal, not just in South Asia, but across the world. When 1% of the population accounts for 40% of the national wealth, as some figures would show in this country, that is worrying. And you will therefore find 1 million mutinies bubbling under the surface. We saw it last week with the reservation agitation that came to Mumbai. We've seen it with farmer protests. We've seen it with students protesting against paper leaks. We've seen tribals protesting against land acquisition. They may not all reach the studios of Delhi, but these mutinies do bubble under the ground. We are large enough, I think, to accommodate them. Our resilience is therefore much greater, but it is a warning signal, especially, and this is my final point, that we are in an age where the lines also between online and offline agitations are blurred. I can start an online agitation on Facebook and Instagram as was done in Nepal. It can rapidly spread offline, and we saw that with the farmers' protests in particular. So I think that is a worry, and it will play out more at local levels. I don't think it's going to play, any such agitation will play out Kashmir to Kanyakumari as it does from Kathmandu to Biratnagar. But there is no place for complacency. We live in a troubled neighborhood. But I think at the end of the day, we are a relative oasis of stability.
A relative oasis of stability, and our institutions are way stronger than what we are looking at in our neighborhood. If it was Sri Lanka, Rajapaksa never really allowed our institutions to, their institutions to get strong.
But not strong enough.
Okay, strong but not strong enough, but stronger than our neighborhood.
Absolutely.
At least that's been the case. Gaurav, for the first time, I don't think you're going to quite disagree with Rajdeep Sardesai here. So, what a boring democratic newsroom this is going to be.
He'll find a way.
1 million mutinies may be a dream of a certain ecosystem across the world that has led to, that's fished in troubled waters across the neighborhood. We've seen that. But India is a very strong democracy. We have a very strong constitution, and we have the executive, the legislature and the judiciary all independent, all do their job very well. And we have a very strong media, the fourth estate. We have a very strong social media. And we have institutions that work in India. We should be very proud of our system. It's not as if we are slightly better. We are outstandingly doing very well when it comes to all these aspects. Look at 1 million mutinies. Well, people did try and fish in troubled waters. You had the Shaheen Bagh Dadis being egged on. You've had intelligence bureau officers being killed. You've had trouble in people who've tried to create enough trouble in this country. However, you have a very strong state and you have systems that operate. When the government is wrong, the courts will come down very heavily on the government. But when those who say Bharat tere tukde honge, wherever they may say, they will also remain in jail and they will also have to pay a price for it.
All right, but the issue I feel also, and I'm going to bring in
I hope you
Akshita.
don't even want a reaction from me to
No,
what I just said, but
what
we'll
I'm
go
just
on.
saying is
in
the issue.
In the interest of peace, I will not say a word.
No, but okay, with my 2 cents, the issue with that I actually do feel is that whether it's Shaheen Bagh, whether it's the farmer protest, whether it's JNU protest, you can't brush it under the carpet and say it's a foreign hand. That's where the trouble begins. Because these are protests which have taken
Nobody
place
said
in your
there's a
very own
foreign
country.
hand.
You've
Foreign
got
hand may
to, you've
drive
got to
fish in
accept
troubled
it, you've got to
waters.
address it, and you have to
Of course, that's
listen
exactly
to your
what the-
people.
that's
You
exactly
can't-
what the
you
gov-
can't
if I
pretend,
may-
you cannot
if I-
pretend,
if I may, that's
you
exactly
cannot
what has
pretend,
happened.
No, no,
you cannot
see
be in
that-
denial
no,
and
no,
say
no,
this is
no,
all
no,
foreign hand, nothing to do with India or
You know,
emotions in India.
Since he used such very strong words, I think this is my problem with our system. We become as if we are the best, we are the best. This attitude needs to be tempered down with certain ground realities. There are agitations with, as I said, we don't see in TV studios, but they take place in different parts of the country. Students protest against paper leaks. You'll have people protesting against land acquisition. They take place and bubble at different parts of the country. Don't call
And
them
there are-
we need to
anti-national.
but
You need to,
the moment-
or Khalistanis,
the
or
moment
The moment there is
Khalistanis.
an
Yeah.
agitation in the country, we
Right.
immediately brand the dissenters today as that's dangerous. Do not
no,
do that.
Rajdeep, it's a sign of a healthy
allow
Exactly.
Akshita
You
to
call
have
somebody
protest,
anti-national,
and you can have some who
to
dissent
throw
against
someone
the
in jail.
protest.
No, that's not the way to deal
Okay,
with
Rajdeep,
it.
okay, let's get everybody in.
You know,
Akshita.
land acquisition, 2015, government retreated. 2020
It had to.
farm laws.
It
That's
had to.
democracy.
Okay, fine, allow me.
There
That
is
is
fine.
the power of a
Okay,
protest
I want to bring in
system. Then
Akshita.
also
Okay,
have-
one second,
And
Gaurav.
that's
Akshita.
exactly
As
why
long
we
as you
want-
don't-
Rajdeep and Gaurav, allow Akshita to
My
speak.
simple
Sorry.
point is
Yeah.
the question that you raised, Preeti, about lessons for India. I think rather than lessons, it's a reminder for India that we're in a country where there's no political instability. We're in a country where there's no economic instability like what's happening in France, and you're seeing protests happening there. We're in a country where we can have a democratic newsroom and we're not shot dead for our views like what's happened in America. So my simple point is that I think our reminder is that we should be happy we're in a vibrant democracy today where we can have differing views and go out and say it. We can take to social media. We have social media.
True.
We can put out those views. There may be dissenters who will troll us. But that's it. We can still put out our views without any
Sadly,
fear.
And
but
where we
if I
ex-
may, just give me 30 seconds. Some, like the incident in the United States of America. Sadly,
Charlie
some
Kirk?
people, sadly, some people have had their sar tan se juda in our own country for having an opinion. So, unfortunately, we need to also go after those elements. Everyone needs to go after those elements. There cannot be a selective approach to this, as you very rightly point out.
As there can't be any
Akshita.
selective approach to any protest and calling it the work of a foreign hand
Or
and
calling
being
them
complete denial
anti-national.
or being complete
You're
denial
a
on what their
citizen of the
demands are.
country. You're a
Okay.
citizen of the country,
No,
and you have a
everyone's
Geeta.
right to
Where
say
is
what they
tribal?
want.
Where is
I
it
mean,
tribal?
they
Geeta,
cannot
no,
be
one
labeled
look at
anti-national.
Okay, allow.
Except Rajdeep,
Look at the
nobody
journey.
used the word
No, no, 1 minute.
anti-national.
Look at the
except
way.
Rajdeep,
No, no, 1
and
minute.
except
Look at the journey
Preeti,
that my
nobody used
friend
the
has
word
taken.
Khalistani.
I was discussing.
Are you kidding me? Are you telling
I
me
did
during
not
the
use the word
are you
Khalistani.
telling me
Akshita
during
did
the
not.
farmer
I did not.
protest?
I did not.
Are you telling me during the farmer protest Khalistani was not used? Gaurav, you've done multiple
were.
shows where not just journalists
They were
used it, but government used it.
Yes. No.
Leaders in the
So-
government used
And
it, and
that
it
they
was
would
parroted
do
by
what the Prime
it was
Minister
parroted
said.
by the media.
So
Let's not
was
be in
not
denial now.
Okay,
All right,
but
allow me.
when such
Again,
action
in a
took place,
democracy.
when those elements were there, such elements were called out.
Okay, allow
You know,
me.
it's-
For me, I
Geeta,
look at
come in.
lessons from Nepal is from the perspective of geopolitics and how it's playing out for India in Nepal, and what India needs to learn, Preeti, is the fact that there is disparity there, and that's the reason why we saw the agitation. Nobody can say that there is no disparity here. It's a democracy, but the disparity is absolute and extreme. When the trend started about Nepo kids, and look at the kind of coverage, there are so many sections within Nepal today who are not kind to Indian reporters over there. Our reporting has been affected because so many of them are actually anti-India. And when the entire trend started about Nepo kids over there, saying that these ministers' kids, and when Indians went there to report it, they started trending Nepo kids of India, saying that this is the minister, his son is
we didn't
this,
shut down
this is
social
the
media.
No, we might
But
not
to
have
be
shut
fair,
down
but to
Akshita.
be
I'm
fair,
talking about the fact
where's
But
the
to be fair,
comparison?
Geeta, over the years, Nepalese politicians have very cleverly converted what are legitimate protests of the people of Nepal and brought in an anti-India angle. I've
Yes.
seen it over the years.
Yes.
This
True.
happens
Yes.
only to create a cross-party support. I don't think that should
convenient.
worry us in
Yeah.
India.
But we
That
should worry us,
No.
Raj.
I don't think that should worry us in India in terms of the fact. I don't think India is responsible for what happens in Nepal. This is ultimately an
But- and
internal
there
issue
was
of Nepal.
2014-2015 blockade, Rajdeep,
I know there was anger then.
which really created what it has created for the youth.
That was a
Why
difference,
does
yeah,
the
sure.
youth in Nepal think a certain way about India is because of
It is,
2014-2015.
I'm trying to whip
For
up.
them it's very
I'm trying to whip
accept your
up.
point.
I'm
We
trying
have
to
to-
whip up the anti-India sentiment. You had, Oli's statement yesterday where he practically blamed India.
No, that's not
We do
that's not a
know for
statement
the sure
from
that
Oli.
whether
We do not
statement
know.
was written
Right.
given by him or not. But
We
yes,
don't
that-
know yet, but
his camp is anti-India.
But
Yeah, but go
that
ahead.
has so Oli imprint in it that even if someone has manufactured it, it had
is
those
Oli.
elements of the Oli's so-called statement and his stance.
Absolutely.
But if you see, in Nepal or many country in our neighborhoods, unfortunately, this has become a trend that if someone want to rile up the nationalistic sentiment, they keep India as a punching bag. But if you see what has happened, you listed out the changes around us, and this makes us more worried or like how to take lessons.
Or should we be worried?
Like we have reasons to be concerned about, and we have some reasons to remain assured as well. Because look, democracy is not a monolithic structure. Democracy is a dynamic structure. You have to protect your democracy every day. So that effort need to be done. But if you see, there is a post-COVID angle in it. There is a post-social media advent angle in it, and globally the democracies are reeling under pressure. Every democracy is reeling under pressure because there are many factors here. Because the advent of social media today, algorithms are deciding whether they are platforms or whether they are publishers. We as a publishers have accountability. At times they play that they are platforms, but algorithms are deciding. They are deciding that which post of yours will go viral,
That's
and
true.
you'll publish more of those contents, and this is how they are fueling that sentiment. Whether it is by design or by default, I can't say for sure. But yes, this remains a factor, and this remains a factor in every country for that matter. If you see the MAGA thing is now going to Germany in AFD. MAGA thing is going to
The
France.
right wing, the
the
extreme right wing.
MAGA thing is going to now after 2 days on Saturday you are going to have Raise Your Color campaign in United Kingdom, and there's going to be an anti-immigrant sentiment there. So look, every
And
country
when
has its
such
own.
elements, should such elements try this in India, you need to be one, careful. Two, my point, if I may, remains because we have a very strong executive, legislature, judiciary, media,
Absolutely.
and social media. There are so many safety valves in our system. The steam gets out. The protests that Rajdeep talks about, they're covered in the media. It goes to a court of law. It's decided in a court of law, and you have faith in a court of law. You may agree with the judgment, you may not agree with the judgment, but once the judgment
But Gaurav,
is
we
given,
can't discount the economic disparity with
action.
every developing
Sure.
economy. Economic
Sure.
disparity is a
But
big
at
factor.
the same time,
that's-
do keep in mind that we are an economy that's growing at 7.8% this fiscal, 7% this year. The fact remains we are a $4 trillion economy, and
But
everyone
Gaurav, the
has
fact
something
also
to
remains.
contribute
But
in that
Gaurav, the fact
economy.
also remains that the periodic labor survey, which the government conducts on a monthly basis, now pegs unemployment at 5.6%, which has been the highest in many years. Number one. Number two, you have a huge chunk of this country which is not really happy with the free ration that you've been giving them
Sure.
to compensate for the have-nots.
Yeah.
So
The
there
free
is
ration-
disparity. We need
The
to
free
address
ration,
that.
If I may, the free ration,
Right.
just permit me, since this free
Sure.
ration is raised very often, the free ration is not a dole for him to just eat and sit at home. It's just to help him use that money, him and her, to use whatever money they would spend on that food elsewhere.
Gaurav,
And
all-
then
I
just
don't think
ensure
I-
that 80 crore people are not starving. Look at the way people are standing in queues.
They shouldn't be
queues.
jobless and
Gaurav,
not
Gaurav,
starved.
the
Well,
fact-
everyone also has
has
to
to
make
be
that
some.
effort to get a job. Everyone
Gaurav,
cannot
I'm not
bank on a
saying they could
government
use it as a
job.
reason.
Do
I'm
not
just saying
bank on a
we
government
need-
job.
we need-
create
We
jobs.
need to be aware. We need to be
Create
aware
jobs.
of the
Every
extreme
Indian makes
disparity.
that effort.
Go ahead.
Every
Oh, sorry,
started,
Raj.
my
I'm
worry,
not the government.
my
you're not
worry,
the government.
my worry
Private
with these
jobs.
Okay, we are going
There
this
are
way again.
judges.
Gita, I'll come to you.
Industries are not getting skilled labor, so upskill yourself to get that job.
That
No,
also has to be a
I
responsibility.
worry with where we
skilling.
started off. What was my initial point? That the only
Right.
big lesson is that in a world, and I said world, not just India, across the world, of growing, sharpening inequalities at various levels, there will be protests at different stages. Now, those protests take different forms. In Nepal, they've taken the form of these violent street protests. That may not necessarily be the case in India. I don't see where the how we suddenly moved from me raising the issue of tribals who want to protect their land against land acquisition and the concentration of wealth in the hands of a few to suddenly Sartan say Juda. Where is the link? I'm not even drawing that link.
No, you did.
I did not. Just a minute.
Akshita and I did.
Yeah, because you want to play to a particular narrative. That is not the narrative of Nepal. For God's sake, the topic is what are Nepal's lessons for
Not
India?
just Nepal,
Nepal's
Bangladesh,
lessons stem.
Bangladesh,
Just
you
a
have
minute. You
radical
must allow me.
Islamists.
You must
Okay, I'll
allow
come
me.
back. Allow.
That's not the topic. The topic
It
is
is
what are we to learn from Nepal?
Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka.
Misgovernance, corruption, nepotism, unemployment, migration are being used as the factors why Nepalese youth are angry. Now, I could well turn around and I will take you to different parts of this country where Indian youth are also restive, particularly when it comes to student paper leaks, when it comes to the manner in which a privileged elite with their networks, with their contacts, tend to monopolize certain jobs. It's not as if there are enough government jobs in the country. That's a major challenge. Of course, skilling is a challenge. But these are all problems that democracy has to wrestle with. Do not use the heavy hand of the state, the danda, to bring it down. Find ways to engage with them, to dialogue with them. It's my belief that even the farmer protests could have been better handled if there had been early willingness to dialogue with people rather than anyone who dissents against the system being branded as anti-national.
Nepal, for
Even
that
Nepal
matter, could have been
protests.
handled way better.
Much better.
Okay,
The first day
Akshita.
those 20 people killed is what turned
Yes.
that
And
anger
Rajdeep
turned the
into
tide.
total
Yeah.
hate.
Even
Putting
Bangladesh
people
is
like-
Akshita,
you
Geeta,
know,
allow
There are
Akshita.
ways to look at every protest. The great thing about India, Rajdeep, is yes, sure, and no one's saying India is perfect. There are obviously issues that have to be addressed. The great thing about India is you can voice your concerns. You can go out there and protest. You will get the backing if you want it. You can hit the streets tomorrow. If I have an issue and I want to stage a dharna, I can go ahead and do it.
Do you
I
know
can
the
take
number
to
of
social
Jharkhand
media and go
tribals who are
ahead
put
and
in
do
jail
it.
under
My
sedition?
only point
Are you
is,
aware, madam, of the number of
are you
Jharkhand
suggesting
tribals
we're not a
who are put
vibrant
in jail under
democracy?
for
Are you
sedition?
suggesting we're not a vibrant
No,
democracy?
no, 1 minute. When did I see again? You may. I am
That's my point.
giving you a
There are
specific
cases
example.
that-
a right.
there are
Please,
cases
there are
slash
enough
against
cases
people
in
who
this
protest.
country where people who have protested,
Have
who have
been
raised a
slapped
red
cases
flag,
against.
have been damned and
Yes.
put in jail and
Are we
under
suggesting-
laws
Rajdeep,
which is-
allow Akshita to
Look
finish.
at the
Allow
number of
Rajdeep,
cases.
Rajdeep, allow Akshita to finish. Allow Akshita to
There
finish.
is a judiciary
She's
for a
trying to
reason, and that's the thing about India, that you have checks, which is what Gaurav also was
A
referring to.
judiciary which
And
sat on
listen,
habeas corpus
so
petitions of Kashmiris for years? Is
Oh,
that a
so
judiciary
we're
that we
suggesting
should be?
the judiciary is
There are weaknesses in our
compromised now?
system. We must accept those.
I have
There are
said
weaknesses
India is
in our
not
media.
perfect.
Our media doesn't take the government enough to task in many states and at the center. Our judiciary sits when it's convenient.
There is a social
Okay.
media.
A
and
sitting
so-
government spent
you know,
3 years
again,
in jail,
I will always
and
bring
the
it
courts
back.
will open on a Saturday for a privileged journalist.
we are
Oh,
getting-
That's
oh,
the
so
point.
sorry.
We are
Courts
suggesting
only
now that
open
the
here. Courts open at midnight for a terrorist to save a terrorist from being hanged.
He was
Courts,
hanged.
Yes, but
He was
courts,
hanged.
But
He
courts,
went through due
courts
process.
will not open for you and I.
No,
Courts
no.
will only open for those terrorists.
No.
And you know these
Again,
two
you're
lakh
using
people.
a wrong example
I
to
am
make
not
a-
using a wrong example.
Okay,
I am against
went to
running
jail
down. I'm
and then was
against running
hanged.
down. You see, India is doing extremely well on these aspects. The world is actually looking up to India
Okay.
because we are able to deliver. Because you have executive, legislature, judiciary, media,
Okay.
and social
You know,
media.
I want to just, a humble request, all right, to all our editors. Allow everyone to have their say. We have enough time, right? No point talking over each other. It makes no sense. Geeta, would you want to come in with your 2 cents?
I just wanted to add one more point. When we talked about handling or mishandling of the Nepal situation, it was a court directive that every social media platform register itself with the Ministry of Communications. All the Chinese platforms did because the government is pro-China. It's the American platforms that didn't. So there's a trigger there. Like Rajdeep, we were discussing a little, where I'm coming from.
You're talking
is,
about
is the learning. The learning is that when you have social media platforms working in your country, they need to comply with the laws of the land. And in Nepal, certain platforms, mostly all American platforms, did not comply with
Can I ask
Rajdeep,
both our foreign
allow.
policy
Yeah,
experts
I
a
wanna go
question?
to
Can I ask
Pranay.
them a question?
Sir, ask quick question.
Yeah, my quick question is simply this. Is one of the learnings foreign policy? Over the last 11 years, and I thought it was a diplomatic and tactical masterstroke of the Prime Minister in 2014 when at his oath-taking ceremony he invited all the leaders of the South Asian nations. I thought it was a start of a new dawn. 11 years later, neighborhood first seems to lie in tatters at one level. I just want to ask you, do you believe that we've spent so much of time seeking Western affirmation that we've forgotten what happens in our neighborhood? Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, with which we've repaired elections. We even had Maldives. Now we've got Nepal. I'm just asking you as an observer. From 2014, when
Can
we
I just
embraced South
quickly
Asia,
just make-
have
Can
we
we
moved
not
into
talk
Western
over each
affirmation?
other?
Yeah.
Can
Let's
we
Pranav.
not talk over
Rajiv,
each
let
other,
us not get
Pranay?
I'm just asking you.
I'll come to you
Absolutely.
after
And I'm
that.
just giving it an answer. Let us see the cases of recovery. We thought that we have lost Sri Lanka. But with the fresh election, we have recovered our relationship and now we have a good working relationship with Sri Lanka. With Maldives, with having Mohammad Muizun still in power, and the guy who actually came to power with the India Out campaign has made a turnaround. Look, no one Bangladesh also. Look, whatever has happened with KP Sharma Oli in Nepal, with his previous term, with Pushpa Kamal Dahal Prachand with his previous term, and then making a turnaround and making his first visit to India, and even KP Sharma Oli was hell-bent to come to India. In fact, he has agreed to come to Gaya first.
Were we caught off guard?
I won't say that we were caught off guard, but what you could have done. It's an internal thing. It was brewing up. The social media ban only became an immediate trigger, Rajdeep, but there was actually, you rightly pointed it out.
I'm
in
going
last
to give
17 years of democracy,
one
there have
second.
been
Can I
14
just come in
governments.
as the moderator? I'm going to give all of you 20 seconds each. I'm going to put the timer. Rajdeep, this is for you.
Okay.
So,
I
I'm going to
completely
put the timer.
disagree with
Go ahead.
Rajdeep that India is seeking Western affirmation. We are not. In fact, we are standing up to the United States of America, and it's the US that has actually made a U-turn on its policy towards India, at least as on date. Point one. Point two, as you rightly pointed out, India's policy towards neighbors was always neighborhood first. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Kathmandu, and I was covering that trip, he made it very clear that Nepal has shed blood in every war that India won. It's a civilizational relationship that these two countries enjoy. Now, if KP Sharma Oli wants to, cozy up to China and use the communist China against India, that's his call, not
30 seconds
India's
over.
call.
30 seconds, Geeta.
Well, I think that I agree a bit with Pranay, but I also agree with Rajdeep in terms of what we call off guard. We might have made recoveries in Sri Lanka, we might have made recoveries in the Maldives, but China still holds sway over how Maldives looks at its foreign policy. So does the Sri Lankan government. And Bangladesh, certainly we've lost ground too. We couldn't have done anything with BNP. Nepal, again, lost ground. So we have to really reassess how we're looking at our neighborhood.
30 seconds.
India has imperfections. No one's suggesting otherwise, but we are a vibrant democracy, which is why I believe there are no lessons to be learned for India from Nepal. Sure, we can watch what's happening, and because they're our neighbor, watch it carefully, but no lessons to learn to me.
Let me now twist it around. And I say, I think the Modi government has learned one thing. When Prime Minister Modi speaks out, for example, against the privileged elite, when he speaks about Garib Kisan, he's understood the kind of vocabulary you need to control some of these restive elements. These restive elements are there across the world, including in this country. But I think we should appreciate the fact that the government at times recognizes that you cannot allow the privileged elite to get away with the kind of power they have. But, and there will always be a but, the concentration of wealth in the hands of a few is something that every country should be worried about, and India is no different. The brazen, conspicuous consumption and concentration of wealth in the hands of a few is something that should worry all of us as Indian citizens looking at it.
All right. So, what I do believe is that
10
if not,
seconds.
no time. I have to close and I have to give my 10 seconds.
I'll just say one thing, that with COVID as an example, a virus which started from Wuhan has actually spread the entire world. So now there are lessons for every country to learn from wherever it happens. And yes, with country like India, with such a huge population, with such a young population, we also have lessons to learn.
Well, I actually feel that, maybe not embrace, but we need to accept dissent and not blame it on a foreign hand, number one. Number two, it's not about, that's what I feel. That's what I feel. I don't think so. A huge chunk of us don't do that. That's what I feel. And I also do somewhere.
That's the great thing about dissent. You can dissent.
All right. I also, somewhere down the line, do feel that it's not about politicians, it's not about political parties. Democracy and the vibrancy of that democracy lies in strengthening its institutions, which we have. And that's why we are different from any of our other countries around, our neighbors.